to chat through what we got from the blood and ask you guys just a few more additional questions about your home, just to make sure we're protecting not only your son, but also the rest of your family. So hopefully the ICU team had talked through that we got a name from something in the blood and the same exact name from something from inside the spit that they pulled out. And so it's a bacteria called Haemophilus influenza, which is an old infection, and one of our things that we use vaccines to prevent. Where I'm going with this though is that with how invasive it is for him, like causing so much harm, it's probably this one we call Haemophilus influenza B. And why that matters, one is that for folks that are unprotected from it, like if they're unvaccinated, we give them an antibiotic so that they don't get sick from it. Because we can share this bacteria until we've been treated for 24 hours by just our breathing, our respiratory droplets in the home. So I wanted to get the lay of the land for your other kids and you guys just on vaccine status and how old everybody is in the home. I don't think I asked about the other kids on age-wise.
Well, our oldest child is 7.
7, all right.
The next one is 4.
4, gotcha.
And he's 2.
Okay. And then, are you guys vaccinated? You would both be of an age where you would have gotten the H flu vaccine in childhood.
I mean,
I don't know if we're vaccinated for that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Okay. All right. Well, either way, we vaccinate the parents to protect the kids. Like the biggest risk with this infection is usually younger ages, advanced ages, so like 65 and older, and anyone who might have an underlying health condition like an immune system problem. I didn't hear that from you guys. No one's got like an immunodeficiency or anything like that.
mm-hmm.
Well, because of the 4-year-old, either way, the right decision is to give you guys some antibiotic to cover the family, and also just to prep you too, because this is something that can spread in households, and because we kind of take it very seriously when we identify it, meaning that it'll get like sent to the state and they'll do some testing on it to make sure there's not other cases in your area that they should be aware of, kind of things. Sometimes the DHEC or our Department of Health will reach out to families and like do what we call contact investigations, just so it doesn't catch you off guard, because they're slow and it's going to probably happen after you guys get home and you're like, why in the world is DHEC trying to call me now, like now that things are better.
It's Department of Health and what?
That's a great question. Department of Health and Environmental. Let's see, what does the sea snake want to state? I'm new to South Carolina, so we called it DPH in Georgia.
Here.
I should know that, and I don't know. That's a shame. But it's the folks that essentially your public health departments.
Okay.
At the state level. I've asked them to do this thing we call typing, and what that means is that they'll do an extra test on this bacteria to tell me if it's the one that's vaccine preventable or not. Only thing that matters is it sometimes informs this decision to use the antibiotic. I'm not going to wait on that. I'm going to go just because of how sick he is. I would rather just make sure no one doesn't miss that opportunity for you guys to offer it. And the antibiotic is called rifampin, and it's about a 5-day course of a medicine that you take by mouth. Comes in a liquid, comes in a pill. Doesn't have much in the way of side effects other than it makes your pee orange while you're on it. Once you stop it, the orange pee goes away. There's no harm to it. Doesn't impact the kidney. I believe so, because I use it to treat pregnant women who have like TB and other things that this is not. But I'll make sure to confirm it with my pharmacy partner on it, because we have other options. And so that's what I'll recommend, and just to protect your kids, because it's kind of weird, but like he can be sick now, and a kid who's at risk in the home can get sick sometimes a week plus later.
Yeah. That's a concern too for some.
Yeah, because
for
I
something that can
definitely
get
don't
them.
want. I don't want this again.
And it's a pretty effective too strategy, which is this 5-day short course of antibiotic.
I'm very favorable to that.
Okay, all right. Well then, I'll make sure that we get that ball rolling. The thing that I'll need from you guys.
So what about our daughters? Like, how do we?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So that's what I was going to is that I'll need like their name and just a birth date, so that I can send it to whatever pharmacy you guys would prefer. Who's
Okay.
helping watch your kids right now?
My mom, do I have to be worried about my brother who's a diabetic where they're staying?
Not so much.
He was vaccinated, as a
Gotcha.
kid, so I don't know.
Gotcha. No, not so much with diabetes. And was your brother in the house with you guys?
No.
When you said, okay.
No.
Because right now, and unless you tell me, yeah, my other kids are starting to have symptoms, I would say that they're just at risk, and so we're gonna, treat them to prevent.
Can my mom and them bring them here, and then they can be?
He's going to put the antibiotics regardless. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
If
No,
they're
I just-
otherwise doing okay, they don't necessarily need to go get seen by a
Oh,
doctor
okay.
or anything. But if they're having symptoms,
Oh,
I
okay.
would get them seen. Just
He's
to be
he's going to
evaluated.
prescribe us stuff.
Yeah.
So when we go home, we'll just have them go on that,
Oh,
even if
okay,
they don't
okay.
have it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'd probably once you guys get the scripts, I'd probably just start it.
Yeah.
The goal with this prophylaxis antibiotics is you want to start it as soon as you recognize you need it, because you want to. What we're trying to do with the antibiotic is to prevent ever having.
Yeah, from getting this far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because the range of symptoms with this particular bacteria is different from person to person, ranging from really severe, life-threatening infections, which I'd say your son was in that bucket, but thankfully we're not there. We're getting better.
My line of work puts me into contaminated places from time to time,
Uh-huh.
and so it's possible that I have come home with dirty clothes.
Gotcha.
That could have been a source of contamination.
Well, I'll tell you that's fair, but I don't want you to carry any unnecessary guilt, sir. But the way that we usually share this is that it lives in our nose. Like we bring it in by breathing in other people's air.
I come home and it's daddy,
Yeah.
and they're hugging and breathing
Sure.
me in and my clothes.
Sure. But we usually share it by being around folks that are coughing or we're breathing someone who's got it, and they might not be super sick. It's just when we're at risk for it at these either, again, extremes of age, we're young or we're very old, and we have a weak immune system, and the way that we generally, because we've seen a dramatic decrease in the amount of this particular bacteria harming us as humans. It used to be, probably about, honestly, 30 years ago now, we would always have numerous children in the hospital with this bacteria because it was so prevalent at harming kids. Thankfully though, the antibiotics we've been using should have been treating this. I am going to now, knowing what we know, narrow down to the antibiotics and really hit this very targeted with a medicine called ceftriaxone.
That's great.
I am asking them to do a lumbar puncture, to do a spinal tap. That's coming from me as one of the team members. The why behind that is that I know that this bacteria can cause meningitis. And given all the oddness with how sick we got at the front end of this, it helps me to know, one, how long to treat him and how much antibiotic he needs, if there's meningitis or not. And then it helps me tell you guys what to expect as well once he's recovered.
I feel like you are definitely somebody who knows what you're talking about, and I trust what you're talking about. I trust you.
Gotcha.
And so do what you think is best.
Yeah, I'm doing it hoping that what we find is there's no evidence of meningitis at all. But I think not asking the question is us not necessarily doing our best to, one, make sure we treated him the best we can, but also prepare you guys for any questions you might have as he recovers.
I'm sure you've probably already come to the conclusion that we are not favorable towards vaccines,
Mhm.
and so our we prefer alternate solutions to get to there.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. And if you guys ever, so I am a vaccine expert in what I do. If you ever have any questions during your stay and you want to talk through those, I'm an open book, and it's a non-judgmental conversation for me. But right now, yeah, we're not pushing any vaccines or anything like that for him because he's at this point past kind of where it would be a benefit, to be honest. And again, I'll let you know if it was even something that was vaccine preventable. But it's in the family of bacteria that we have what we call the Hib vaccine for.
Okay.
But either way, most importantly, switching up the antibiotic to just hit this hard, because if we know we don't need additional antibiotics, they're just a potential risk for some new problem to be made. So we'll narrow those down. And I do want them to do a lumbar puncture if they can to help me know, help you guys know, honestly, and everybody really, is there any evidence of infection of the spinal fluid that surrounds the brain?
Yeah, I support that. That's
Yeah.
good. Now you were talking about this Department of Health will probably come around and
I
do
doubt
some-
they'll come to you. They might just call you.
Oh, okay.
I like to tell folks because it catches you off guard because
yeah, when you get a call from them and they're
you're
asking
here
what's
with,
up.
with your child and he's very sick and like last thing you can remember half the time is what many of us have kind of talked through, right? Much
Yes,
less
a lot of
people's names.
information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's always when I talk with families that I continue to follow, they're always caught off guard the timing of when DHEC calls because it's like things are better, you're home, and you're like, why in the world is DHEC asking all these questions right now?
Okay.
But it's them just trying to do their job on making sure that they understand that there's no problem in a community or something like that, it's just one of our what we call reportable diseases, meaning that when we get it out of anyone, honestly, whether it be a child or an adult, it gets reported to the state, and so that the state can make sure that they're keeping the communities healthy. That's the goal.
Now my next, where my brain has been going is, you think that you have a pretty good idea about what it is,
Yes, sir.
and what is the typical source of that you have found?
Again, it comes from other people.
It comes from other
yeah,
people.
Yeah, we.
So it's
How do
not,
they get?
So it's not like
Because he hasn't been
could
around
be
anybody.
something in our home, or it could be something around our home outside.
No, it wouldn't be really environmental. It comes from other people.
See, that's what confused me, because he'd been around other people one time the day before he got sick, with
Right.
other people's kids.
Right.
But he's
And-
only with them for like an hour or two.
Yeah, I hear you, and probably the answer will be, and it won't. It's not a satisfying answer for you guys as a family because we don't have a good way to like test or prove it unless we start hearing about other kids in your area, your community where he plays with them that have also been diagnosed with this bacteria. But probably the most likely answer is that there is someone he was around
Yeah.
who obviously was not as sick as him with this bacteria. Because I would tell you the most common experience with this family of bacteria is not this. It is I got an ear infection. I've got like a runny nose.
That girl
Yeah.
who I've been playing with.
So do you
But,
think?
a lot of things cause ear
But,
infections. A lot of things cause
yeah.
runny nose. But like that's kind of because people can have it in their nose, have no symptoms. People can have it in their nose and have like sinus infection, ear infections, pneumonia is a commonplace.
Do you think that we should be tested for this bacteria?
I'm going to treat you for it either way. So
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily say you guys should be tested. Unless you're having symptoms, obviously. That's the only caveat to all this
Sometimes we do have symptoms, but we chalk it up to allergies
stuff. Sure.
because there's a lot of pollen in our area,
Yeah.
and we get these sinus type symptoms that go away after 24 hours.
Yeah. And so, and it probably is indeed that, just this environmental allergies, as you say, because with this family of bacteria is why the vaccine works. Because you're trying to mimic natural infection. Once you have this infection once, you're protected against that strain, typically the rest of your life.
So you don't think that like he'll be able to get this again?
Not this strain. I don't think so. No, ma'am.
But the girls be at risk if we don't.
But your other kids at home that we don't know if they're infected or sick or not. That's why I want to just prevent that by
The antibiotics.
treating them.
So he does have meningitis,
We don't know.
or we're gonna check.
We're
to
going to
see.
check to see. Yeah. So when
He
I
said
think
this type of infection can lead to it
Yeah.
if it's in his
Right.
spinal
this
fluid.
particular bacteria.
I'm just
has-
trying to understand.
Yeah,
that.
due to this bacteria, knowing what we know it can cause, this is what I would call invasive disease, meaning it's not just an ear infection, it's not just a sinus infection.
Yeah,
it got into his blood,
Yeah.
it's in his lungs, and so I know that this bacteria is well known to cause meningitis. With all the lack of clarity about what was going on, why we were acting funny, to me it is the right decision to, if it's safe, do the lumbar puncture, prove if there's meningitis or not. The why behind that for me is that it tells me the perfect amount of time of treatment he needs, and also helps me tell you guys if there's anything that we should be vigilant for after he recovers, and and I won't weigh you guys down with any of that conversation until I get this because I don't want you to worry unnecessarily.
Okay.
Do you have by any chance have like a card like that in case we ever was to have questions about any kind
I
of?
do. Help me remember though. It is in my bag in my office.
Okay.
I'm usually pretty good about carrying it, but I realize I don't have any. And I'll be around, like I said, coming through every day as we go through this. But the biggest thing, and again, I don't mean to be offensive. I've had loved ones in the hospital, critical care, and it was like I said, it was hard enough for me to remember who in the world these people were talking to me, much less what they were trying to tell me. So I try to, at the end, kind of come back to everything that I talked through for folks in our ICU. So we're going to switch his medicine, his antibiotics, down to something that really targets it and always kills it. I'm going to test this bacteria in the lab to tell me if it's one of these vaccine preventable strains or not. And I'm also going to test it to see which antibiotic options we have. Until I know, we're going to use the one that always works, without a doubt. So that'll happen today. And then additionally, I'm going to ask them to do this lumbar puncture. Because we've been on antibiotics, I'm asking them to do an extra test that is not always done, where I can even pick up on dead bacteria that might have been there to give me 100% confidence, that there's no infection. And then that's probably it. I asked them to do a bunch of things because of the exposure history you guys gave me, and that was the right decision at the time. But now, knowing what we know, I don't probably need to ask any additional weird infectious questions because this is the likely answer. Well, it is the answer in my opinion. We'll need to prove that we've cleared the blood. So the team has already done some repeat blood cultures, but we want to make sure that we're clearing it.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
And the good and bad about this bacteria, one is it's pretty harmful to us until we start antibiotics. But thankfully, it is when we're on the right antibiotics, it's very let's say easy to kill, but it's easy for us to.
You know what to do about it.
Yeah, and we get rid of it pretty quick, but it can be harmful to our body in that period of time to when we present. But you guys brought them in really quick, so obviously hoping for best outcomes there. I came by earlier and listened to them. I think where you guys were grabbing coffee. Lungs still sound good. I did talk with your ICU team if they haven't come by, and they agreed with doing the lumbar puncture just to make sure.
Yeah, I think Dr. Evans has been planning on doing that since the beginning.
Gotcha. Yeah, they were kind of. I got a little distracted about this fluid collection near the liver. I still think there's more questions to ask about that, but I don't think it is necessarily the cause of the bloodstream infection. It might be a consequence of being so sick from the bloodstream infection.
Well, I know this isn't your area, but and I know they're already kind of tracking it, but I'd kind of like to see that thing get took off his head because I don't think I never did think that seizures was an issue for him.
Yeah, and I'm not the neurologist, but what they should do today when that team comes back through is that they'll make a call based on whatever activity they did or didn't see, and say, I was out there when they were talking to the team yesterday. They were planning for at least just another 24 hours, which would mean today would be a day to decide if you need it anymore. And they also, at least initially, hadn't seen any obvious seizure activity at the time. So again, I'm hoping that they do this lumbar puncture and it just tells me that there isn't any meningitis.
How long until we would find out after the?
Yeah, you'll get good and bad, right? With a lot of what we do in medicine, but for this test, we'll get some initial information within about an hour. That initial information we'll look at the sample under the microscope, and they'll tell me did they see any bacteria when they do some staining on the fluid. That'll be a reassuring thing if it's negative. Honestly, I predict that will be the case. We'll also look at the types of cells that are in there. And so what we want to see, meaning this would be evidence of no meningitis, would be that the white blood cells that help fight infection are 0 or very close to 0. If they're very high, then that would be a sign that there's inflammation and likely infection related to this. And then the test that then takes longer, meaning it takes sometimes 2 days to 3 days for us to do it, is that they'll take it and they'll see if it grows, just like they're doing with the blood
Okay.
culture right now. And then give them information overload. And then additionally, I'm doing this fancy test that'll be able to pick up on dead bacteria. I'll get that result in probably about 3 to 4 days.
Okay.
In the meantime, though, we're going to treat as if it is there until
Okay.
we prove otherwise.
Okay.
Well,
This is
I
Dr.
hope
Wayne.
you guys have students around here. I hope they're getting something out of this too.
Definitely, we have resident. So I don't know if they have many medical students down here, but you do have some residents that are part of your team. So they're pediatricians that are getting their training while they're down here in the ICU. And then, but for the most part, most of your care is directed and managed by attending physicians like Dr. Whalen here.
Okay.
And she's excellent, very well trained. I've enjoyed working with her, but I think it'll be her potentially doing the lumbar puncture.
Okay.
So you're in very experienced hands. And for us, I don't. It sounds weird, but relatively straightforward procedure. Why it sounds like a lot, but I'm sure Dr. Whalen will give you much more detail.
Okay.
Thank you.
How are you?
Lumbar puncture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just talking through about why, and then we're talking through about prophylaxis, which I'll drop in my note. It sounds like definitely we got a household that would benefit from it.
Okay.
I'll give you guys. I'm gonna come back with a sheet of paper once you guys have chatted with Dr. Whalen, just so I can get your names and birth dates, and then your kids' names and birth dates, and where you'd like me to send the prescription.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
All right.
Alright. Hi guys. I am Dr. Whalen. I'm one of the other ICU attendings. I work with Dr. Evans. Okay. She asked me after talking with Dr. Thacker and everyone to come in and work on getting in lumbar puncture, like you guys talked about, to assess his CSF spaces. And to do that safely, there's a couple of things. And I'll sort of talk about them together. And so, so the lumbar puncture procedure, we put a needle into the back, sort of lower down the back, in between the bones of that protect the spinal cord.
It's very similar to a epidural. Right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
she's had them.
You've had them. So it goes like that. Since he's sedated and,
It'll
he's already.
it's more better like than
Yeah, like you know,
when you're awake
Yeah,
and-
exactly. And obviously we can't sit him up like that, but we will
Right.
turn him to his side and do it on his side.
Yeah.
Okay. Anytime we put anything from the outside in, I think about 3 major risks. One is bleeding. So there's some veins that sit in front of the spinal cord that I can't see. You can't necessarily avoid. The reason that is so pertinent for him is that some of his bleeding markers are slightly elevated. It's probably because of the infection that he has, but we're going to give him some FFP, so some plasma, this morning to correct some of those numbers so that his bleeding risk goes down. And I think that's the safest way to do the procedure. It doesn't sound like he's gotten any red blood cells or anything since he's been here. But I wanted to first consent you for giving that FFP. Now again, the blood is made up of red cells and then everything else, the plasma it sits in. And the plasma it sits in also has things that help your blood clot and help sort of your blood act the way it normally should. And that's what I want to give him today because his INR number is elevated, which is a marker of bleeding. Okay. So it's fresh frozen plasma.
Is this a blood donation from someone else?
Yes.
I don't want him to have nothing like that because of I don't want no COVID blood in him. I don't want that, please. If there's any other way around that,
So
unless you can test that person's blood for COVID-19 vaccines, I don't
Yeah.
want that in him. I'm sorry.
I understand. I don't know. I'll have to talk to our blood bank. I don't think that they parse out that.
Yes,
information.
please don't do that. I'll be very upset about getting blood in him if I don't know if it's got a COVID vaccine in it or not. Please
Okay.
don't do that.
Okay. The issue is it's not safe for me to do the lumbar puncture procedure with his labs looking the way that they do right now.
So what's the alternative?
So I can talk to Dr. Thacker and Dr. Evans. So we either wait and see if that gets better on his own.
Please talk to him and just see what y'all can do about that.
The risk is even if, regardless of the procedure, even if he gets worse or his shock or septic shock gets worse, if he needs those blood products, it may not be even related to a procedure. It may be something that we have to readdress.
Could you take the blood from me and give it to him?
Potentially, though, that's not quite as quickly, and we'd have to match it and everything. So that is something we can explore. But
That'd be great. That'd be great if we can do that.
Yeah. Let me go talk with our blood bank and let you know. I don't know if this is helpful or not, but my bottom line is safety, and so I would never recommend something I thought was unsafe. And then my children, who I obviously not only bottom line is safety, but would do anything for, I did give them the COVID vaccine. So I just, if that helps, I don't know if it helps or not, but I just wanted to share that information with you to let you know that how safe I.
Forgive me, but it doesn't help.
Okay, that's fine.
I've studied that thing. It's mRNA, and I think that's very dangerous, and I'm very against it.
Okay.
I would really be open to providing blood or letting her give him some blood if we can explore that route. Would be very, very
That's fine.
good for me.
I didn't mean to. I'm not trying to fight. I just was trying to share my
I understand.
my experience and trying to do sort of the best next steps for him. So let me talk with the team.
Okay, please.
And see how urgent or.
I'd be very appreciative if we can explore that idea.
Yeah. I understand. Okay. Well, then I'm going to hold off on these right now, and I might talk you through the procedure later, just so that you're ready and this consent is signed for that when it's safe to do so. But let me go talk to the team.
Okay, yeah, talk about them and see what everybody has to say about it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I can talk to our blood bank. I don't think at this point they don't test or separate out.
I believe they don't. That's why I'm like a little bit hostile about that idea because, I've seen the documentary where all the morticians are like, we're pulling these clots out of people that are 2 feet long and stuff like that. I don't like that nanotechnology in his blood or whatever it is they put in that thing. I'd really rather put my own blood in him if he needs some. I think it'd be safe and less risky than that stuff, maybe.
All right. That's fine. We're going to agree to disagree because again, I wouldn't advocate for anything that I thought was unsafe for him. So I want to make sure that
I really believe you.
I want to make sure that we don't end on.
We're good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We're good. That's just my little quirk. If we can really do this instead of that,
Sure.
I would really just be grateful.
And again, we'll come to you if we're like, there's no question, we need this now. This is if we get to that point, we'll have a different conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Let me go talk with the team, and we'll figure out the timing of that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.